There was a question that came in. It was a little bit earlier on, and I couldn't exactly get to it because you guys were engaged in so much conversation. But it's regarding searching on LinkedIn, and how do you sift through all of the personal changes that occur in the job profiles?
So good question. There are a couple of different things you can use. So there is actually an iPhone or iPad app, which I think is called Job Change Alert, that does that on LinkedIn.
You
so
can hold that up if you have it. But
I'll see if I can find it quickly.
Yeah.
So you can use that. Something else you can use, which I'm a big fan of, is there is a social CRM tool called Nimble. And what Nimble will do is it takes all that information and it understands what has changed, and it then tells you what to go do as a result of actually that happening. So it'll say, congratulate this person on a new job. Phone this person and say, happy birthday, because it can tell you what it does. But let me see if I can find my,
So Nimble, while you're doing that, go ahead.
So while you're doing that, it basically dumbs down the whole process for you, and it walks
dumbs down the whole process.
So
Nimble.com. So here's one of the cool things about Nimble. It takes all your contacts and all your relationships from Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Google Apps, Gmail, whatever you want, puts them all in one place.
Here's a nice number, $0 for a personal
It's free, isn't it?
So you can get a personal account for free. Okay? So that's something you can do. I'll hold this up and see if people can see that. So the bottom, can they see that?
Yep.
So the bottom right-hand corner is Job Change Alert. That's a free app that you can get on your iPad. I don't know if it's also iPhone, but definitely on the iPad. And you simply open it up. It tells you about the job changes.
Yeah.
This one's a little kind of convoluted because for some reason they show up twice. I don't understand why they show up twice.
So it looks like a reverse yield sign. It looks like okay. Huh.
So that's a cool tool. Nimble, I think, is awesome. You just input all your stuff into Nimble, and it tells you, phone this person, congratulate them on their job.
That's pretty sweet.
There's a couple more you told us about, Geist and also Ecosystem.
Yeah, so Gist is another cool one. So what Gist also allows you to do the same thing, and it will scrape your inbox. And in fact, I also have Gist on my iPad. It's on the first page.
I installed Gist.
And what it also does, same sort of thing. It'll tell you about all these job changes. I had a scenario with a new VP of sales for a recruiting firm who'd heard my name from somebody else and called me in. And I hadn't had a chance to do any research, so I went to see him a couple of days later. I got to his office 5 minutes early, and I did some research on this guy, and I managed to, in the conversation, talk about some of the stuff that he had mentioned on Twitter. So, I put my family first. We talk a lot about stuff I do for my son. Well, funnily enough, he talked about loving car movies, being a fan of the Vancouver Canucks. His wife was in healthcare, and that every Saturday morning he gets up at 5:30 and takes his daughter to swimming lessons. So in this conversation, I was able to bring up things that we had in common, which kind of takes me back to Charlie Green's piece around intimacy and reliability. And intimacy, for me, is when you have the same thing in common with somebody else. So whether you share the same interests, golf, mountain biking, sailing, red wine, whatever. So T.A. McCann, the guy that started Gist, loves to sail, loves red wine, and he loves tech firms. So he's an awesome guy. And we have all these things in common. So when we chat, we could talk about stuff that's not just business related. So interests, the whole thing about putting my family first. So having conversations with John, who's the CEO of Nimble. He took a 6-year hiatus to raise his family. We have things in common from a values perspective. There's this connection that goes deeper than just interests.
Yeah.
And the last thing for me is aspirations. When you have common aspirations, that's an even deeper connection from an intimacy. You'll share more with me because we have values and aspirations and interests, in common, not just our interests.